If there's one thing 50 Cent is never short on, it's opinions, and he said something really interesting recently that had many people nodding. He said most of the beefs that have happened in the hip-hop scene over the years all come down to ego, money, or women. Now, coming from 50, the king of beef himself, that hits a little different. This is a guy who's been in more rap wars than mixtapes, and let's be real, he's probably the only rapper who never backs down from smoke. But the more you think about it, the more it starts making sense. All these iconic feuds we've seen in hip-hop over the last 20 years, if you strip away the interviews, the tweets, and the diss tracks, and 9 times out of 10, it's ego, money, or a messy situationship at the center of it. So today, we're digging into 7 of the wildest beefs that have happened in the hip-hop industry in the past 2+ decades. On top of that, we're going to break down how every single one connects back to 50's theory. And as we go through them, you might even realize that your favorite rapper's biggest feud started over something petty. Like, real petty. And hey, don't just sit back and watch. Let us know in the comments section, which of the beefs had you glued to the drama and which one do you think went too far? Now, let's get into it. There's no way we're talking about the biggest rap beefs of the past 2 decades and not starting with 50 Cent versus Ja Rule. This wasn't just some regular beef, it was real life warfare, and the crazy part was it didn't even start in the studio. It started on the streets of Queens. The rumors back in the day was that Ja got robbed by someone affiliated with 50, and that was how the wild tension started brewing. But the more the rumors spread, the more it spiraled into something way bigger. But let's be real, Ja and 50 getting into it big time wasn't really about that one incident. It was about ego. I mean, 2 rising stars, 2 street credible reputations, and 1 rap game that only had room for 1 king of New York radio. And if Ja Rule was singing his way up the charts, 50 was waiting with Wanksta, ready to air him out. You say you a gangster, but you never pop nothing. Bruh, that line had the streets howling. Ja tried to clap back with Loose Change and other tracks, but by then it was too late. 50 wasn't just dissing him, he was strategically dismantling him. Not long after, he launched G-Unit. He dropped Get Rich or Die Tryin', and just like that, 50 made it cool to hate Ja Rule. And the labels, the fans, and even other rappers, well, they switched sides fast. And here's where money comes into play. As 50's profile rose, Ja's fell. Fast. Festival bookings dried up, album sales dipped, radio play vanished. You could say 50 didn't just beef with him, he rebranded him out of existence. And the wild part was this beef never really got squashed. 20 years later, 50 still finds a way to troll Ja online just for sport. But let's pause here. Do you remember where you stood during this beef? Were you bumping Always on Time, or were you fully riding with 50 and G-Unit? Now next on this list is the quick but fierce beef that happened between Drake and Meek Mill in 2015, around the time Twitter was beginning to turn into a full-blown war zone. This crazy beef started over a single tweet from Meek Mill where he said people shouldn't compare him to Drake because Drake doesn't write his own raps. Now, you know what's crazy about the way this tweet was blown out of proportion? Everyone, including Drake's diehard fans, knew he didn't write his own raps. I mean, it wasn't the first time he was accused of having a team of ghostwriters, was it? But the internet didn't care one bit, and the drama exploded big time. Now, on the surface, this might seem like a shot at Drake's pen game, but dig deeper and it's really about ego. Because Meek had just dropped his album Dreams Worth More Than Money, and guess what? Drake was featured on it and allegedly didn't promote it. You could argue that the tweet about Drake not writing his own raps was a bit petty, but you know, Meek was probably feeling slighted, so he decided to come for the golden boy. But here's the thing, you don't just come for Drake and expect silence. Man's got ego for days. Look at what's going on right now. Drake didn't even argue, he went straight to the booth. First came Charged Up, then the real nuke was back to back. The crazy line where he said, "Is that a world tour or your girls tour?" lived rent-free in the culture for months. It was disrespectful, surgical, and catchy enough to get Grammy nominated. A diss track on the radio on repeat. You know the wildest part though? One-on-one, there's no way Drake would beat Meek in a rap battle. They're cut from completely different cloth lyrically, but still, he cooked Meek on those 2 songs effortlessly. Now, whoever wrote those tracks for him needs to be compensated. Fast forward a few years though, Meek and Drake eventually squashed it and even did music together. Still, this feud will always be remembered for how one ego-driven tweet gave birth to one of the most iconic diss tracks of the decade. But be honest, where were you when Back to Back dropped? Did you run it back 10 times too, or were you in denial trying to defend Meek in the group chat? Because this beef right here was proof that in 2015, Drake could swing as much as he could sing. K-Dot has since humbled him though. But if Drake versus Meek was a meme war, Drake versus Pusha T was psychological warfare. Like scorched earth, no coming back kind of beef. Now, to be fair, this feud had been bubbling for years. We're talking sneaky subs, jabs in interviews, and shots across multiple albums, but in 2018, it fully detonated. It started with Drake throwing shots on Duppy Freestyle, a response to Pusha's digs on Daytona. It was clean, slick, and full of the kind of highbrow disses Drake is known for, and he was probably feeling himself, that is, until Pusha dropped the story of Adidon. And just like that, it wasn't a rap battle anymore. It was a full-blown character assassination. The artwork of this song alone sent the internet on fire before the song even played. Then came the bombshell bar where Pusha alleged Drake was hiding his son, a huge revelation nobody saw coming. Not the fans, not the blogs, not even Drake's inner circle apparently. And here's the thing, this wasn't just a diss, it was a reveal. Drake's image as the calculated, smooth, untouchable artist was shattered. He went from running the summer to explaining fatherhood on Instagram. The crazy part is, this beef wasn't about money, it wasn't even about music. It was ego versus vengeance. Drake tried to spar like a gentleman with sneaky shots here and there, but Pusha, he brought a gun to a knife fight and knew where to shoot. And let's not forget, Drake never responded, at least not directly. For a minute, there was no diss track or any bars about the accusations. Just silence and a very awkward interview with his good friend turned enemy, LeBron James. He did later respond to the story of Adidon on his Scorpion album, but some fans believed he was too late, while others argued Drake only took a tactical retreat. But what do you think? Who cooked whom, Drake or Pusha T? Now I know one thing's for sure. This beef proved that when egos are on the line, nobody is safe, not even the man with the biggest ego of them all, Champagne Papi. Now we're going to let the women step into the ring because up next is the Nicki versus Remy Ma beef. Before Cardi, before Megan, before the floodgates opened, there was Nicki Minaj, the queen who ran the female rap game solo for almost a decade. And when you're that dominant for that long, you don't just wear the crown, you start thinking you own it. And well, be honest, she did own it. But then there was Remy Ma, fresh out of prison, hungry, and not here to play humble. And while they pretended there wasn't any beef at first, fans could feel it brewing. Nicki would throw slick jabs in her verses, Remy would smile in interviews, but her eyes said everything. Then came the track Sheether, Remy Ma's 7-minute nuclear diss over Nas's Ether beat. If we're keeping it real, this wasn't just a shot, it was an autopsy. Remy Ma went in hard with everything she's got. From Nicki's surgeries to her brother's charges to her ghostwriting rumors, nothing was off limits. And let's be honest, Nicki wasn't ready for a rap battle. She didn't respond for days, and when she finally tried to clap back with no frauds, it didn't hit as hard. It was lukewarm at best, despite the Lil Wayne feature. Now, don't get it twisted, Nicki is a certified hitmaker, and she's got an incredible fan base, but Sheether is one track that reminded the world that Remy Ma came from a different era, where rap battle wasn't about charts, it was about dominance. What made this beef special is that it wasn't about money or men, it was about ego, competition, and pride. It was about two women in a genre that rarely makes room for more than one at the top. Next up is Gucci Mane versus Young Jeezy. This is before the era of memes and full-blown Twitter takes. Gucci Mane and Young Jeezy had one of the most real, most dangerous beefs in rap ever. This wasn't about subliminals, this wasn't about who wrote what, this was about money, betrayal, and survival. Now, we're going to go back to 2005. Gucci and Jeezy teamed up for the hit So Icy, an instant street anthem. The kind of track you hear blasting out of car windows in every hood, but behind the scenes, tension was brewing. Both artists claimed ownership, both wanted the song for their album, and when money started getting involved, so did the ego. Next thing you know, Jeezy puts a $10,000 bounty on Gucci's chain in a diss track. Yeah, he said that. And what happened next was straight out of a crime doc. 4 men tried to run up on Gucci at a woman's apartment. Gucci ended up shooting one of them, killing him in self-defense. And this is no joke. This actually happened. And if you don't believe it, you can look it up for yourself. From that point on, the whole situation transformed from a rap beef to a straight-up blood feud. Both sides dropped several diss tracks, from Stay Strapped, Truth, and 745 to Get Your Mind Right. Almost every single bar was laced with disrespect and threats, and the streets of Atlanta were split down the middle. This wasn't just ego, this was about credibility, territory, and real-life consequences. Careers were impacted, labels got nervous, and fans knew this wasn't for show. And yet, in 2020, something nobody expected happened. Gucci and Jeezy faced off in a versus battle. Same room, same stage. Gucci performed Truth, the song where he disses Jeezy's dead homie to his face. Bro, that moment had everyone holding their breath, and yet somehow, they dapped it up, squashed the beef, because maybe, just maybe, getting older and getting richer can bury old egos. Did you ever wonder if they really squashed the beef or if it was just business? Well, I respect the fact that they didn't let the whole squabble get in the way of making some paper. Now, last but not least on our list is 50 Cent versus Jay-Z. Now, this one, it was never a full-on war, but you could always feel the static. Because when 50 Cent and Jay-Z clashed, it wasn't over fists or diss tracks. It was about power, perception, and positioning. Let's rewind to the early 2000s because 50's on fire at this point. Get Rich or Die Trying drops and shakes the whole game. He's wild, raw, unfiltered, and loud. By the time 50 became a household name, Jay was already certified. He was the ultimate business mogul, the guy who doesn't have to scream because his presence does the talking. But even then, 50 poked the bear. He'd throw little jabs, calling out Jay's business moves, questioning his grown man image, even suggesting Jay wouldn't be who he is without Beyonce. Jay, of course, barely acknowledged it. Classic off. Too rich, too smooth, too calculated. But don't get it twisted, he heard everything, and every now and then, he'd let a slick bar slide through. Remember the line where he said, "I'm about $1, what the fuck is 50 Cent? In case you don't know, that was from an old track titled It's Hot. But you see, what made this beef interesting is that it never fully exploded. There were no direct diss tracks, no public brawls, no versus face-off. Just two powerhouses playing chess in very different lanes, but make no mistake, this was ego on full display. 50 built an empire by being aggressive, flashy, and confrontational. Jay built his by being cool, calculated, and always 2 steps ahead. And for years, you could feel the tension in their success. One came from chaos, the other from control. So here's the question. Was 50 ever really trying to beef with Jay, or was he trying to rattle the throne a little? After all, if you're a shark like 50, you're always going to test the top predator. And that's what made this beef iconic in its own way. It wasn't about violence. It wasn't about women. It was a quiet, powerful clash of ego and legacy. Now that we've gone through some of the biggest beefs in hip-hop over the past 2 decades, do you think 50 Cent was onto something when he said ego, money, and women are behind every celebrity beef? Because you know the wildest part? Nothing has really changed regarding rap beefs in the last 20 years. We're in a new era of Instagram lives and subtle unfollows, but the core drivers are still the same. Ego, money, and women. So maybe 50 wasn't just stirring up drama for clicks. Maybe he really laid out the holy trinity of hip-hop conflict. Now I'm going to throw to you, hip-hop fans. Which beef do you think went the furthest? Which one could have been squashed early but pride got in the way? And which of these beefs do you actually enjoy following the most? Let us know in the comments section below, and if you're loving these breakdowns, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications because we're just getting started. In the rap game, peace is temporary, but beef is forever.